And last fight of the day, we have red-haired Shanks versus Gol D Roger. Both had the hat before Luffy. Boom, Gol Roger had it. Boom, he gave it to Shanks. And then Shanks gave that shit to Luffy. Right? Gol Roger became king of the pirate because he didn't listen to people who tried to tell him not to do it. See, because after the Rocks era, he basically took over the seas as in piracy, right? Whitebeard was there, but he had other goals, man. He was trying to be a family man. He didn't ever want to find One Piece. He even told Roger, he said this. He said, that shit's a fairy tale. I don't think you want to do shit like that. You know, and he's like, no, ancient texts and all this other stuff. Hey, man, I need that guy real quick. He's going to help me find the One Piece real fast. And I'll be the one to find the last island because we went to Lodestar, but there's, another one, and I know it. And when he's excited and confident about it, his crew knows that. They followed him to the fucking, find the four-road poneglyphs. They found him, Odin deciphered him, and they found Laugh-Tale. And he was crowned the king of the pirates after that. Because he stuck to what he believed in and not listen to those fucking, doubters, right? He ain't like that. Now, Shanks saw his captain and he tried to do the same thing. Or, he wanted to be a great pirate too. Because he grew up in that shit, He was adopted by Shanks. He was found in a chest and all that, right? He worked his way up. He became a Yonko after handling some business in Elbaf. We'll just say that for now. I ain't trying to spoil you guys on that shit, right? And soon after that incident, he became a emperor. And that was like 8 years ago. He stopped the war the best. After Whitebeard and Ace was killed, he went in there and stopped that shit. He does have celestial lineage, right? So Sengoku listened to him that day. Post-time skip, he stopped Aramaki from going into Wano, and then he defeated Kid with one shot. Ended his career as a pirate. That's powerful stuff, man. That's not shit that... Because, Kid's not useless, man. He's still a top 30 character in the series, currently alive right now. Well, if he's still alive. And he is probably, but he's not gonna... we understand that he's a top 30 character, and anybody else who was, that shit could have happened to anybody else. That ain't Luffy. Law would have been handled similarly. Other people too from the worst generation would have been handled similarly. They just like to, pick on his dick. I'm not like that, but we get the point that Shanks is powerful. Now let's get into it. Strength is gonna go to Gol Roger. Shanks is a strong guy with one arm. He adapted pretty decently to having one arm, but he is weaker with one arm, as opposed to having two, which Gol Roger has two. Let's not forget Gol Roger had both arms. Speed, I'm giving it to Shanks. Less weight, one arm, and we've seen the way Shanks was moving, right? In the movies and in recent episodes, he's quick, right? Not saying Gol Roger's slow, but I think Shanks is faster. Durability wise, I'm giving that shit to Gol Roger. Not easily damaged. Shanks, I think, can be damaged easier than Gol Roger can. Endurance will also go to Gol Roger. He fought against Whitebeard. He fought against Rocks. He fought against people who were, goddamn, real units. And I ain't saying that Shanks, didn't fight against anybody like that. He had his, little skirmish with Whitebeard, but it was old Whitebeard. He had his skirmish with, some other people. Somebody from Elbaf. I can't wait to talk about him, y'all, but I won't talk about him yet. intelligence, I'm giving that shit to Shanks. Shanks is a smart guy. You know, he was able to infiltrate his homeland and get information about the devil fruit, sun god Nika devil fruit, and then execute a plan to go back to sea as a pirate. You know, he wasn't gonna stay there and other things. And he actually tried to stop. Oh, I don't want to get into spoilers. Um, experience is gonna go to Gold Roger. Gold Roger has slightly more experience than Shanks, just a bit. Close skills go to Shanks. I think he's a better swordsman than Roger. I do. Range skills, though, however, go to Gold Roger. It comes down to a sword swing. The nigga with the fucking one arm swing is not gonna swing as hard as the guy with two arms. It ain't happening. I know people are gonna try to argue that shit, maybe, but you know, it's pretty fucking evident that that shit's not. You get way more power in your swing with two arms. That's why people, when they play baseball, they swing with both arms, nigga. They don't swing with one. Gold Roger got that shit, right? Recoup goes to Shanks. And what do I mean by regen? See, Gold Roger in his prime after the Rocks era was slowly going. He was going through some health issues. Now he was still doing, like, he was still fighting people and all kind of shit, man. But Shanks don't have any health issues. He just has an arm loss. That's not the same thing. Now, having an arm loss is, one thing, but he's lived with this arm being gone for 12 years, right? He's adapted. He knows how to move now. He could recover better than Roger. The thing with Roger was he was going to die anyways, right? That's why he turned himself in. Like, let's say that Garb never found Gold Roger. He was still going to die. Like, he might have died drinking somewhere, right? If, Garp never found him, right? Because he disbanded his group and other things, right? I'm giving it to Shanks. That might be debatable. Whatever. Hacks, I'm giving it to Gold Roger. Gold Roger, slightly better Conquers hockey. And for me, it comes down to that commissary. Both of them have it. And Shanks is pretty damn good at using it with one arm. But hey, man, I'm like, if Shanks had two arms, I'd give it to Shanks. But whew, that's Gold Roger with two arm swing. Boy, I ain't sleeping on that shit, son. Now, you can do that shit all day if you want to, but endurance, or not endurance, environment will go to Shanks because they are fighting at Elbath. That's the fighting grounds for this fight. Ultimately, though, Gol D Roger wins extreme diff. This is actually a really close fight, man, and I wouldn't mind seeing that shit. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and be cool, corner.